Welcome to my channel. Have you ever said, I know English, but I don't sound like a native speaker? You use words, but something still feels different. You pause. You think. You translate in your head. You ask yourself, why do I still sound like a student, not a real speaker? In this video, I'll show you exactly how I fixed that, step by step. I will take you deep into my journey. This is not about grammar or big books. This is real, practical, emotional, personal. Do you also struggle to speak like a native? Comment below. Yes or no? Let's begin. Chapter 1. I knew the words, but I sounded like a robot. I still remember the day I spoke English in front of my classmates. I said the sentence clearly. I used the right words, but the room went silent. One boy smiled, not in a kind way. It was the smile of someone hearing something strange. I sat down. My heart beat fast. I asked myself, what did I do wrong? I used correct grammar. I used the vocabulary I learned. But still, I sounded different. I didn't sound like them. I didn't sound natural. I sounded like a robot reading from a book. This moment stayed with me for a long time. Every time I spoke, I felt nervous. I thought people would laugh, not because of my words, but because of the way I said them. My voice was flat, my rhythm was off. My English didn't feel alive. It felt forced, mechanical, rehearsed. And I was tired of it. I didn't want to be perfect. I just wanted to sound real. I wanted to sound like them. Like the native speakers I watched on TV, on YouTube, in movies. I asked myself a question that changed my journey. If I know the words, why can't I speak like them? I looked for answers. I watched videos. I read books. I listened to podcasts. But something was missing. Everyone talked about vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, but no one talked about this feeling, this gap between knowing the language and sounding natural in it. Then one night I watched a short interview clip. Just two people talking. One was a native speaker, the other was not. Both knew English well, but the native speaker sounded relaxed, cool, confident. The other speaker, he sounded like me, clear but stiff, fluent but not natural. That night, I understood something important. It's not only what you say, it's how you say it. That was my turning point. I stopped only learning words. I started learning sounds. I listened to how native speakers use their voice, how they go up and down, how they pause, how they use silence. I noticed they don't say every word clearly. They connect words. They speak fast, but with rhythm. They speak with feeling. So I started copying that. Every day, I picked one sentence. Just one. I played it again and again. I closed my eyes and listened. Then I repeated it. First slowly, then with emotion, then with rhythm. At first it was hard. I felt silly. But soon, I could feel the change in my mouth. My tongue moved differently. My face relaxed. My voice flowed better. I remember the sentence I practiced most. I don't know. That's it. Just three words. But the native speaker said it like, I don't know. Not, I do not know. That's the thing. In school, I learned the correct form. But natives, they speak with shortcuts, with real-life emotion. So I copied that. I practiced in front of the mirror. I didn't just say the sentence. I acted it. I used my hands. I made a face. I said it like I really meant it. I don't know. Maybe. You sure? Just small phrases. But they had power. They had life. I felt my English waking up. Then I tried these sentences with my friends. At first, they looked surprised. Then they laughed. You sound different, one said. In a good way, another added. That moment gave me hope. For the first time, I felt heard. Not just understood, but heard. Like I was speaking their language. Their way. The biggest lesson I learned. Speaking like a native is not about big words. It's not about perfect grammar. It's about rhythm, emotion, and confidence. It's about connecting with people, not just saying the right sentence. When I understood that, everything changed. From that day, I made a new plan. Each week, I chose one short video of native speakers. I listened. I copied. I shadowed. I didn't care if I made mistakes. I didn't care if I didn't understand every word. I only cared about how they sounded, and how I could sound like that too. And slowly, I did. Every day, I sounded a little more real, a little more natural, a little more like them. I wasn't just learning English anymore. I was becoming part of it. I wasn't a robot now. I was a speaker, a learner, a real person with a real voice. And this, my friend, was just the beginning. Chapter 2. The first time I heard real English. It was a quiet evening. I was tired from the day. I opened YouTube to relax. I didn't plan to study. I just wanted to watch something easy. I clicked on a random English vlog. A young woman was talking about her day. She showed her breakfast. She walked through the park. She met a friend at a cafe. It was nothing special, but I couldn't stop watching. Not because of the topic, but because of how she spoke. Her English was soft, fast, natural. She didn't pause much. She didn't speak like a textbook. She used small words, simple sentences, but her voice had life. She laughed when she said something funny. Her eyes moved. Her hands moved. Her English was alive. That was the first time I truly heard real English. Not school English, not perfect grammar, just real, natural, daily life English. And I was shocked. I didn't understand everything. Some words flew past me. Some phrases were new. But I could feel the meaning. I could sense the emotion. I could hear the rhythm. It was like music, not a song, but a natural flow of sounds and pauses. Sometimes she said things like, you know, kinda, lemme, gonna, and like. These were not in my textbook, but they were everywhere in her speech. I wanted to understand her, not just the words. I wanted to feel what she felt. So I watched the video again, and again. The third time, I tried something different. I paused after each sentence. I repeated her words. I copied her tone. I copied her face. I copied everything. I didn't care if I sounded silly. I just wanted to sound like her. That was my first shadowing practice. And it changed my English forever. I didn't know the word shadowing back then, but I was already doing it. I was repeating native speech with native rhythm. I wasn't translating. I wasn't thinking. I was just copying, like a baby learning to speak. And it felt good, so natural, so easy, so fun. That one video gave me a new idea. What if I stopped studying English like a school subject and started living it like a real language? What if I listened more and read less? What if I copied more and memorized less? That idea changed everything. I stopped watching boring grammar lessons. I searched for real-life English, vlogs, podcasts, interviews, conversations, cartoons, anything that felt real, anything that showed how people really talk. I remember another video. Two friends at a coffee shop. One said, "Hey, wanna grab lunch?" The other said, "Yeah, I'm starving." I paused the video. I smiled, not because I understood, but because I didn't. I never learned wanna or grab lunch or I'm starving in school, but now I wanted to learn them, not for exams, for life. So I wrote those phrases in my notebook. Not grammar rules, just real phrases. I made my own list of native expressions. Every day, I added 3 new ones. I read them out loud. I acted them out in front of the mirror. I used them in small talk with friends. I even whispered them to myself on the bus or while walking. I'm starving. Wanna hang out? That's crazy. No way. You're kidding. Sounds good. These were not just words. They were life. They were real. I also noticed how native speakers connect words. They don't say, "What are you doing?" They say, "What you doing?" They don't say, "I have to go." They say, "I have to go." These changes made their English sound fast and smooth. At first, I couldn't say it like that. My tongue didn't move that way. But I practiced, again and again. I spoke slowly at first, then faster, then with feeling. Soon it became natural. I began to enjoy learning. I didn't feel like a student anymore. I felt like a detective. Every video was a case. I looked for native phrases. I listened to stress and intonation. I paid attention to emotions. I followed the clues. Slowly, I became part of that world. People around me noticed too. A friend said, "You sound more fluent now." That made me smile, not because I was perfect, but because I was changing. I was growing. I was becoming real. That first video, the girl walking in the park, it opened my ears. It opened my mind. It showed me the path. And that path was not grammar, not rules, not fear. It was listening. It was copying. It was enjoying. If you're watching this now and you feel stuck, listen to me. Real English is all around you. Just open your ears. Listen. Copy. Repeat. Enjoy. That's how it begins. Chapter 3. Speak like you feel it, not like you read it. When I was a student, I read English like a machine, word by word, line by line. I focused on saying everything correctly. I wanted perfect pronunciation. I wanted zero mistakes. But I never thought about feeling. I never thought about emotion. And that was my biggest mistake. One day, I said a simple sentence. "I'm happy." I looked at my friend. She smiled and said, "Really? You don't sound happy." I was confused. I used the right words. I said the sentence correctly, but still something was missing. She said, Try saying it like you really mean it. So I tried again. I'm happy. I added a little smile. I raised my voice a little. She laughed and said, "Now you sound happy." That moment changed something inside me. I realized English is not just about words. It's about how you say them. It's about the energy in your voice. It's about your eyes, your face, your hands. Native speakers don't just speak, they express. They show feeling in every word. After that, I started watching videos not for grammar, but for emotions. I looked at how people say, "I'm tired." Sometimes it was soft and sad. "I'm tired." Sometimes it was angry. "I'm tired." Sometimes it was funny. "I'm so tired." Same words, but different feelings, different voices. That was the secret I never learned in school. So I began a new practice. I called it Feel the Sentence. Every day, I picked one short sentence, just one, and I practiced it with different feelings. I can't believe it. I said it with joy, then shock, then sadness. I acted in front of a mirror. I used my body. I used my hands. I used my eyes. I made the sentence real. At first, I felt silly, like I was acting in a play. But that was the point. English is not math. It's not always serious. It's life. It's emotion. When we feel something, we remember it. And when we feel a sentence, we speak it better. I remember one more sentence I practiced for weeks. I don't care. It looks simple, but it can mean many things. Angry. I don't care. Funny. Pfft, I don't care. Quiet. I don't care. I used it in roleplay with my language partner. We acted like friends fighting, then friends joking, then friends laughing. That one sentence became a game. It taught me more than any grammar book. Slowly, I stopped reading English like a robot. I started living it. I spoke with real emotion. I spoke with rhythm. I stopped thinking about perfect words. I focused on connection. I focused on energy. Native speakers don't speak like books. They speak like people. They use music in their voice. They go up and down. They slow down. They speed up. They use pauses. They use silence. And most of all, they use feeling. I wanted that too. So I copied it. I copied their energy, their tone, their attitude. I became a little actor, and my English became alive. This changed how people reacted to me. Before they just said, "Okay," when I spoke. Now they said, "Wow, you sound good." One teacher even said, "Your English has personality now." That was the best compliment I ever got. Not perfect English, but English with feeling. You don't need to act on a stage. You don't need to be loud or dramatic. Just be honest. Be real. Say the sentence like you mean it. That's how natives speak, and that's how you become one of them. Even when I talk to myself now, I speak with feeling. If I'm sad, I say, "I'm not okay." If I'm excited, I say, "Let's do this." I don't fake it. I live it. And that practice helps me every day. If you're watching this video and you feel like your English is boring, lifeless, or robotic, don't worry. You don't need to change all your words. Just change your voice, change your face, add feeling, add pauses. Speak like you care. Speak like you feel it. Because when you speak with feeling, people feel you. They connect. They listen. They remember you. And that, my friend, is how you start sounding like a native. Chapter 4. Native Phrases That Schools Never Taught Me. When I was in school, I learned many English words. Long words, hard words, formal words. I memorized phrases like, I do not understand. Let us begin the lesson. And, would you like to accompany me? I thought I was doing well, but when I met real native speakers, I was shocked. They didn't talk like my textbook. They didn't say, do you want to go? They said, wanna go. They didn't say, let us start. They said, let's get started. They didn't say, I do not understand. They said, I don't get it. And I stood there, confused. Not because I didn't know English, but because I didn't know their English. I felt betrayed by my textbooks. I had spent years learning phrases that no one really used. I had studied for exams, not conversations. And I was tired of it. I wanted to learn the English that people actually speak. So I made a decision. I would stop learning school English. I would start learning real English. Natural English. Native English. That night I opened YouTube. I watched videos of people talking casually. I listened to how they spoke when they were happy, angry, tired, excited. I wrote down the phrases that I heard. They were short, simple, and full of life. Here are a few that changed everything for me. You okay? Not, are you okay? Hang on a sec. Not, please wait for a moment. No worries. Not, it is not a problem. Let me check. Not, let me verify that. I'm good. Not, I am fine, thank you. These phrases were everywhere. In movies, in podcasts, in interviews, on the street. But never in my English class. At first, I didn't feel confident using them. I thought, what if I sound silly? But the truth is, when I used these phrases, people understood me better. They smiled more. They responded faster. They didn't say, wow, great grammar. They said, you sound natural. That's when I understood something important. Native speakers value connection more than perfection. They don't care if you use the full sentence. They care if you sound like them. They care if you speak with ease. So I made a new notebook. I called it Real English. Every time I heard a native phrase, I added it. I practiced it out loud. I used it the next day in real conversations. And it worked. Here are some more that helped me sound like a native. I'm beat, meaning I'm very tired. No way, meaning I can't believe it. That sucks, meaning that's bad or sad. What's up, meaning how are you? What's going on? Give me a sec, meaning give me a second. I even created mini dialogues using these phrases. I practice them every day. For example, hey, you look tired. Yeah, I'm beat. Had a long day. Wanna grab a coffee? Sure, let me just grab my jacket. I read them, I said them, I acted them, and slowly, they became mine. I also noticed how natives skip words. They say, gotta go, instead of I have got to go. Or ain't gonna happen, instead of that is not going to happen. These things were never in my grammar book, but they were part of everyday life. That's why I stopped chasing big words. I stopped saying, I am feeling very enthusiastic today. I said, I'm pumped. I stopped saying, I completely understand. I said, gotcha. And people listened more. They responded more. They laughed more. Because now I sounded like one of them. I want to tell you something important now. If you only learn grammar, you'll pass exams. But if you want to speak like a native, you have to learn how people actually talk. That means watching, listening, copying, repeating. Like I did. That means making real English a part of your life. You don't need to be perfect, just real, just natural, just human. So here's my advice. Stop reading the same textbook phrases. Start learning the phrases that people really use. Keep a notebook. Practice one new phrase a day. Say it in front of the mirror. Use it with a friend. Whisper it to yourself on a walk. It may feel small, but trust me, these are the phrases that change your speaking forever. Because real English doesn't live in books. It lives in people. And now, it lives in you too. Chapter 5. Copy first, then create. That's how natives learn too. When babies are born, they don't start with grammar books. They don't ask, is this sentence correct? They just listen and copy, again and again. A baby hears a word like mama or no many times. Then, one day, they say it. Not perfectly, not clearly, but they say it, and everyone claps. That's how native speakers learn. Not by thinking, but by copying. One day, I asked myself, why am I trying to do it the hard way? Why am I trying to build perfect sentences from rules? Natives don't do that. They learn by sound, by habit, by repetition. So I decided to change my way. I said, enough grammar for now. I will learn like a native. I will copy. I will repeat. I will shadow. I will learn with my ears and mouth, not just my brain. So I picked one native speaker. Just one. Her name was Emily. She was a YouTuber. She spoke clearly. She had energy in her voice. I liked her tone. I wanted to speak like her. Every day, I watched one of her videos. I didn't just listen. I repeated everything, word by word, sentence by sentence. I paused the video. I said the line. Then I said it again. I copied her voice. I copied her speed. I copied her emotion. At first, it was difficult. My tongue felt stiff. My mouth didn't move the same way. My voice didn't sound right. But I kept going. I remembered how babies learn. Slowly, day by day. Repetition, repetition, repetition. After 2 weeks, something changed. One morning, I was talking to a friend. I used one of Emily's phrases without thinking. It just came out of my mouth. Natural, smooth, real. I smiled. I felt proud. I thought, yes, this works. That gave me motivation. I started shadowing every day. I didn't watch grammar lessons. I watched real conversations. I chose videos that felt human. Two friends talking, a vlog, a podcast. I didn't care if I understood every word. I just listened, paused, repeated, and copied. Sometimes I stood in front of a mirror. Sometimes I walked around my room. Sometimes I whispered at night. But every time, I copied. I spoke with feeling. I matched the rhythm. I copied the emotion. I didn't think, is this correct? I thought, does this sound right? I wasn't just saying words. I was becoming a speaker. Then something magical happened. After a month of copying, I started creating. I was not just repeating anymore. I was mixing phrases. I was adding my ideas. I was building my own sentences, but they sounded natural, not like school sentences, like real native-like conversation. I told my friend, "You gotta check this out." He smiled and said, "Whoa, that sounded like a native." I laughed. I couldn't believe it, but it was true. I was no longer just a learner. I was now a speaker, a communicator, a person with a voice. And the secret, it was not a grammar rule, not a vocabulary list, it was copying. Some people think copying is bad. They think it means you are not original. But that's wrong. Copying is the first step to fluency. It's how we all start. First you copy, then you create, then you shine. Even today, when I hear a new phrase I like, I copy it. I say it 10 times. I whisper it. I feel it. And later, I use it. I give it life. I make it mine. So if you want to speak like a native, stop worrying about perfect sentences. Start copying real ones. Pick one speaker, listen deeply, repeat with emotion, and trust the process. Copy first, then create. That's how natives do it. And now, that's how you will do it too. Chapter 6. Don't try to be perfect. Try to be real. I used to think I had to be perfect. Perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, perfect vocabulary. I believed that was the only way people would respect me, the only way they would listen. So I chased perfection. I read grammar books. I memorized long word lists. I corrected every mistake. I was always scared to speak because I didn't want to say something wrong. But guess what? Perfection made me slow. It made me nervous. It made me silent. One day I watched a video of a native speaker giving a speech. He paused. He said many times. He laughed at his own mistakes. He forgot a word. And you know what? Nobody laughed. Nobody judged him. Everyone listened because he was real. He was human. That was the moment I realized. Native speakers are not perfect. They are natural. They speak with emotion. They speak with flow. They don't stop to check grammar. They focus on the message, on the feeling, on the connection. So I let go of being perfect. I chose to be real instead. I made mistakes. I said wrong words. I forgot how to say something. But I kept talking. I smiled. I laughed. I asked for help. And people respected me more, not less. They said, "You're so confident." But the truth was, I just stopped being afraid. I started using filler words like, you know, like, and I mean, not too much, just enough to sound natural. I added pauses. I used my hands. I looked into people's eyes. And my English changed. Not because it became perfect, but because it became real. That's what native speakers do. They don't focus on rules. They focus on meaning. They listen. They respond. They feel. And they forgive mistakes, because they make them too. Now, when I speak English, I don't think about tests. I think about the person in front of me. I think, what do I want them to feel? That is real fluency. It's not about how many words you know. It's about how well you use the few words you have. It's not about sounding smart. It's about sounding true. I remember one day, I was talking to a tourist in my city. I used simple words, nothing fancy. I said, "You okay? Need help?" She smiled and said, "Your English is really good." I almost cried, not because I was perfect, but because I helped her, because she felt safe, because I spoke from my heart. And that's what I want for you. Forget perfection. It will only slow you down. Be bold. Be brave. Be real. Speak like a child. Speak like a friend. Speak like yourself. You don't need big words. You don't need perfect grammar. You just need your voice. You just need to say, "I'm here. I want to connect. I want to speak." So speak. Today. Right now. Don't wait for a perfect day. Don't wait until you know more. Use what you have. Trust your progress. Keep moving forward, step by step.